All right, I'm ready to go. Ready? Good evening, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Northside Board of Trustees. Before calling this meeting to order, the board would like to take just a moment to briefly review some of the rules for conducting our meeting. The order of business for this meeting is set out in the agenda. One item that you may notice on the agenda is consent agenda. This item includes items that are considered routine and/or are of a recurring nature. All the items listed under consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion. If there's a consent agenda item which anyone here would like to address, please sign up to speak to that item and we will pull it from the consent agenda and discuss it separately. The purpose of our meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason it is held in public so that those in attendance can see the board discussing and transacting business. It's not a public forum, however. We do provide the opportunity for public comment. If there is anyone here who would like to address the board during an agenda item or citizens to be heard portion of the agenda, we ask that you please register on the sign-up sheet located at the entrance to this room. This is so we don't overlook anyone who would like to speak to the board. We will review the rules for addressing the board later in the meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to sign up to an agenda item and has not done so? Okay, the meeting will then officially be called to order. Please stand and bow your heads as Trustee Medina leads us in the invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask you for guidance and blessings upon this board, students, patrons, parents, teachers, and administrators, as we assemble here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Trustee Medina. To my fellow board members, Dr. Harrell will not be here tonight, and Ms. Chumley is on her way, so she'll be joining us shortly. First item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Freeman, members of the board, we have several recognitions tonight, which we'll get to here briefly. Really look forward to recognizing some talented students and staff tonight. We'll also ask the board to sign our annual Declaration of Respect, and I'll talk more about that as we get to recognitions here in a few minutes. Did want to brief the board a little bit on where we stand with regard to COVID case numbers, masks, and that kind of thing. I know that there are folks here tonight who want to speak to the board about that topic. In looking at some data, now that we're sufficiently into the school year, and looking at some data and comparing districts with similar demographics and districts that exist in a large city and so forth, some in suburban areas, some in urban area, it looks like our situation is that we have a little less than half on the per capita cases at the student level than districts without a mask mandate. That said, we've been tracking carefully metrics both within our schools, obviously, but also within the city and county, and obviously are seeing improvement in those metrics, and hope that that will continue and allow us to reconsider perhaps our temporary mask mandate. Want to make a special note to thank the folks at Marshall High School and the Law and Medical Services Magnet. They conducted a remembrance ceremony of the 20th anniversary of 9/11 that was really one of the most patriotic and touching ceremonies I think I've ever attended. Really spectacular event that was both solemn as it should have been and a celebration of our nation. And I just want to take a moment to thank them for all of the work it took to pull that off. Just a brief report to the board on our partnership with the University of Texas at San Antonio and the CAS schools to stand up CAS Teach, our magnet school that will focus on education as a profession. We are making good progress there and do plan to open in the fall of 2022. I'll say to the board, we got a very generous donation from the First Mark Credit Union Foundation, and they will be outfitting 2 of our model classrooms and the school's professional library. So thanks very much to the First Mark Foundation for their donation to our CAS Teach school. And the last comment I'll make, Ms. Freeman and members, is thanks to the folks in our athletics and fine arts groups for our America's Heroes events, which were last week. Take it back, week before. And taking the opportunity at our volleyball and our football games to recognize active duty military, veterans and first responders. Always a really fine set of events, and I appreciate James Macholka and all of his staff, as well as our campus band and choir directors, and certainly Stan Lang and his staff for participating in that event. Given that San Antonio is uniquely situated with regard to members of the military being here, each night that I got to see at our football games, we had a literally sideline to sideline filled end zone with folks that we were able to recognize, and it was really very, very nice to see. So that, Ms. Freeman, concludes Superintendent's report.
Excuse me. Next item on the agenda is board members' report. Is there any board member that would like to say a few words? Gerald?
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on, Brian, you talked about the CAS Teach program, and in one of the, wanted to kind of highlight a program on that. You know, I think one of the important things, a part of that, the CAS program is giving our students the opportunity to look at teaching in that profession. And one of our departments, the athletic program, I know that they had a seminar where they had some of the students come in and talk about, you know, hear some of the coaches talk about the experience and as a coach and things like that. And this is all in that track of becoming a teacher, you know, primarily, but it was having these athletic students come in and see what it is to be a teacher and to be a coach in our district. So that was a very good program. It was well attended by some of our students, by most of our athletic students. So that was a good program. I also wanted to kind of just touch on on the athletic program. I didn't know we hired 88 new coaches. So that was a really good thing for the district as well. But it was really interesting to see the years of service. It was really good to hear that. They got to see what Northside is about as far as teaching and coaching. And so that was really good to see. And from my understanding, I think Stan Lang talked about his why as to why he was a teacher in Northside. So I thought that was a good program. I just wanted to highlight that. One of the other things that I wanted to highlight was the, just like you did too, Brian, was the fine arts, the band, and the dance teams during the honoring the veterans last week. It was really good to see that and hear the different songs for the military. So, and I know the veterans got a kick out of that and they enjoyed it. And it was always good just to remember our veterans and the sacrifices that they've done for our country. So it was a great opportunity to see that, and I'm glad that they got honored on that. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll go next.
Trustee Medina?
And so just kind of share that as trustees, we're kind of required to attend trainings periodically, and we are required to attend a certain amount of hours. And over the last weekend, we were at the TASB conference where we were able to watch and observe some of our very own staff members giving training to other board members throughout the state. And one of our own is, as a trustee, Mr. Blout gave a very supportive presentation. There was pretty much sold out only standing room in our room there, and it was regarding strategies to overcome student learning loss, and it was really data-driven. There was a lot of references that are concrete and strategies that are well-connected to our community and for the curriculum as a whole to make sure students are academically successful moving forward. And I wanted to recognize Bobby for that the presentation. Thank you. I would also share that several of our staff members, Dr. Jordan, Deputy Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, as well as Dr. Ridgely, if she's here. So she's also our Executive Director of Whole Child Development, and Valerie Six, who is our Executive Director of Secondary Administration. They provided a pretty in-depth, kind of like a triangle approach, where you had the curriculum as a whole. You had another department, which is the counseling, the whole child development, and then a practical approach where Ms. Six, who shared the implementation on a campus as an administrator, how it connects the whole child with the community, whether there's parents involved, grandparents, partnerships, to make sure that students are developed fully, both socially, emotionally, and the academics. And so there's a correlation for all those departments, and there were also a pretty sold out room where there was many people that were standing, but well received by other board members, and we heard a lot of compliments. So I just want to share that with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Medina. Anyone else? Right.
I also would like to re-recognize Coach Juan Morales from Holmes High School. This month is Hispanic Heritage Month, and he was recognized as one of the top 10 role models for our young people, and I thought that was really neat that Northside had one of the top 10s.
Okay, thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry I got stuck on a phone. And anyway, ditto to what everyone has said. Janice, y'all were great. I came away saying, gosh, I've learned so much. It's our district, but y'all did a really good job. And Bobby, I heard lots of good things from other trustees about your presentation. So thank you for doing that. I don't have much other than I really wanted to thank James Micholka and all of our band directors for the outstanding job that they have done. You know, I remember a few years ago where it would be like the second or third football game before they were out of their practice, I don't know what you call them, Karen, their practice jerseys or outfits, and then in their full dress. But they started off this year in their full outfits, and their performances are just truly amazing. We have such talented directors, choreographers, and band students. And so I just really wanted to thank them because they have really added to just getting back to the normalcy of going to football games. And it's just been really great to see them. And of course, all of our athletes and our cheer squads and all of our parents, it's just nice to see band parents down there moving equipment again and cheerleaders on the field. And I echo what you said about Coach Morales. He's truly amazing. And I remember when he was at Highlands and he turned that program around, and I had asked him what he did, and he gave credit, of course, to everyone else around him and to the students. But I think that what we see is that he just has the real ability to bring out the best in his students and in his athletes. And you know, to all of our teams, it's just been great to be able to go back to football and see that again. That was it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Black? Okay. You know, to my fellow trustees, to Dr. Woods, staff, I appreciate our presence, y'all's presence at the TASB conference. Thank you so much for your services and being there, and our participation. We're certainly noticed in Northside. Raise Your Hand Texas has an advocacy initiative that I'll be passing out to trustees and seek some advice from Ms. Miller and Dr. Woods. And it's an opportunity for us as trustees to ramp up our advocacy culture here in Northside. So something perhaps that we can look at. And I'm also hoping you had the opportunity to meet Dr. Dan Troxel. He's the new executive director for TASB. This was his first convention. I think he did a great job, but I hope you had the opportunity to meet him. Gerald, thank you. Just as a word, Gerald and I represented us at the delegate assembly. That's where TASB conducts its business. It was longer than usual this time, but it was well attended and we accomplished a lot. So thank you, Gerald, for being there. And that's all I have to say.
Karen, can I add just one thing real
Sure.
quick? I'm sorry.
No problem.
So one of the things that I always find very interesting is that we're in these sessions with other trustees and with other superintendents. And it's been really interesting because there's a lot of school boards that are not working quite as successfully as a team of 8 as you would hope. And so I just wanted to say I really appreciate the board that we're on. And even though we may not always agree, we still work with each other and treat each other with respect. And Dr. Woods, after being in sessions, both presented and sitting with other superintendents throughout the state, we are so blessed to have you. And I think every time I come back from TASB, I appreciate you more with some of the interesting leaders that we have in the state. So that was it, Karen. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is recognitions. Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. If members of the board will join me, we'll come down here in front of the podium and begin our recognitions.
Good evening. I'm Janice Jordan, Deputy Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and I have the great pleasure of introducing some outstanding students from the John Jay Science and Engineering program. Over the summer, 7 of these students competed in the technical challenge at the Destination Imagination Global Finals competition, and they placed 4th in the world. This is out of 935 teams in 14 countries. Their team, named the Nefarious CSEA, Sea Horses, very clever, also won the coveted Da Vinci Award, which honors the team who shows the most unique approach to a solution, takes risks, and exhibits outstanding creativity. At this time, I'd like them to come forward to be recognized. Trisha Bailon. Malachi Drew. Elizabeth Lech. Nicholas Mason. Amelia Wild. Valeria Zavala. And with them today is their team manager and JSEA Academic Research Coordinator, Penny Maritsky. And if any family or staff members are here to support these amazing students, please stand so we can recognize you as well. Do we want to do a picture with all of them in the board? Yeah, let's do that. Yes. So y'all come on up. Come on up and hold your, yeah, you got your stuff and your medals. And Miss Moretsky, yes. Thank you so much. You're welcome. I knew there everybody wants a picture. Congratulations. Next, we have Deborah Rule Schaefer, our Director of Career and Technical Education. She was selected as the 2021 Outstanding CTE Administrator by the Family and Consumer Sciences Teachers Association of Texas Awards Program. This award is given to a CTE administrator who has made consistent and outstanding contributions in support of family and consumer sciences education. Debbie started her teaching career as a family and consumer science teacher at Reagan High School in Northeast ISD. And she got to Northside as quick as she could. But before leaving Northeast, she was the 2004 Reagan High School Teacher of the Year and District High School Teacher of the Year. She served as CTE Assistant Director for Northeast before moving to Northside America in 2018, where she oversees the CTE program that includes 16 clusters and more than 125 courses. It is my pleasure to present Debbie Rule Schaefer, the 2021 Outstanding CTE Administrator of the Year, for board recognition. And if anyone is here in support of Debbie, please stand so we can recognize you. I see some of our colleagues. Yes. Did we get a picture of Debbie with the board? Do we want? Yeah. Come on back. Next, and this, I was going to say last, but certainly not least, and we do have a couple more recognitions, is our very own Miguel Mendez. He's currently the program coordinator at the Holmgreen Center, and he's the 21-22 Region 20 Secondary Teacher of the Year. He's also one of 3 educators chosen as a finalist in the 2022 Texas Teacher of the Year by TASA. Each finalist will be interviewed in mid-October by a panel of judges who will select 2 state winners. One of those 2 winners will be designated to represent Texas in the National Teacher of the Year program. So let me tell you a little bit about Miguel. Miguel is in his 9th year in Northside, and before earning his teaching degree, he worked as an instructional assistant at Langley Elementary. He says that he educates scholars, and few people have the privilege of teaching, and he will do whatever it takes for his students to grow in their own special way. Miguel knows that his students must feel valued and secure in order to learn. He creates lessons to allow students to be successful at their own pace, regardless of their learning environment. When students struggle at home, Miguel works with parents on individualized plans and behavioral and coping strategies. He helps develop a master plan for each scholar as they transition out of high school and into the real world. This includes collaboration between the school, their families, and community resources. I could go on and on, as could anyone who has worked with Miguel. But you can see how lucky we are in Northside to have him represent us, and we believe has the potential certainly to go all the way. So it is my pleasure to present Miguel Mendez for board recognition. If there are any family and friends here, we have one to support Miguel, if you'll stand as well. Miguel. Good. Oh, yes, picture. Very nice. Next is Mr. Galindo.
Good evening. My name is Ray Galindo, Deputy Superintendent for Administration, and it is my pleasure to introduce two outstanding principals who have been named Region 20 Principals of the Year for their level by the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals. TASSP recognizes outstanding principals and assistant principals from the 20 region educational service centers in the state. School administrators are nominated and chosen by their peers, and nominations are based upon exemplary performance and outstanding leadership. Lou Medina, principal of Stinson Middle School, was named the Region 20 Outstanding Middle School Principal of the Year, and Robert Harris, principal of Harlan High School, was named the Region 20 Outstanding High School Principal of the Year. Lou has served as principal at Stinson since 2014. She received her bachelor's degree in English Communications from St. Mary's University and a master's in Educational Leadership from UTSA. She has received numerous awards over the years, including being named 2005 Teacher of the Year by the Texas Council of Teachers of English Language Arts, and was the Region 20 World Languages 2018 Principal of the Year. Just last week, Lou was one of the 3 women featured in my essay, San Antonio Extraordinary Women in Education feature. Robert is a 13-year veteran principal and has served as principal of Harlan High School since that school opened in 2017. He earned both his bachelor's degree and master's degree from Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, Texas. He has also received numerous awards over the years. In fact, we saw Robert in this very room fairly recently as we recognized him for being named the Principal of the Year by the Texas Caucus of Black School Board members. Both Robert and Lou say they see themselves as being risk takers, visionaries, and leaders of learners, and we certainly agree. As Region 20 winners, both of them are now eligible to compete at the state level for the Texas Principal of the Year. Unfortunately, Robert couldn't be here today. However, we do have Ms. Lourdes Medina, if you would come forward to be recognized. And any family or supporters, if you will, stand as well for Lou Medina. And at this time, I'll turn the podium over to Dr. Woods. Dr. Woods.
So as members of the board know, and for many years now, the district has held a district-wide Declaration of Respect Day for students kinder through 12th, for students and staff to promote anti-bullying efforts in our schools. The initiative is led by Mary Libby, who is right there, our Director of Counseling, and all campus counselors. This event will take place this year on October the 8th. We'll hold our 10th annual district-wide signing day for students and staff. Counselors all across the district have been equipped with training, materials, and lessons for classroom presentations that teach the necessary skills to our students to promote a safe, respectful, and healthy school climate. Trustees are asked, as we do each year, to sign our declaration of respect, and I will sign happily on behalf of staff. So trustees, if we'll ask you to take turns signing, and then we'll get a picture if we can with the declaration.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So thank you. That's always nice to have, be able to recognize our students and staff. At this time, before we go to the next agenda item, if those that were here for the recognition, you may leave or you can stay for the rest of the meeting, your choice. But your opportunity right now. Thanks for being here, y'all. And
Thank y'all. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Something tells me the science and engineering students may have a tad of homework. So good to let them go.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. We believe citizens to be heard is a time we set aside to hear from our community. We value your opinions, although we are restrained by law from taking any action or having any dialogue here about your comments. I do request your assistance to maintain a professional decorum while addressing the board. In order to do that, I ask you to address your remarks to the board and not to the audience. Please confine your remarks to a Northside policy or practice. We ask that you do not make any comments or reflect positively or negatively, such as booing or clapping during or after someone speaks during this portion of our meeting. Please do not direct your comments to anyone or about anyone by name. Trustee Joseph Medina is our board secretary. He will keep track of your time. We ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, he will hold up a yellow card. We ask that you think about wrapping up your remarks in the next minute. And at the end of 3 minutes, he will hold up the red card, and that will be the end of your time for comment. Dr. Woods, you may call the first person.
William Labrera, followed by Deanna Fensel.
Hi, I'm Bill LeBrera, and I have a few things to say. Today, my dad would have been 108 years old. He was a prisoner of war in Japan for 3.5 years. He was on the Bataan Death March. And I think he would be appalled if what he's seen today. And while you guys were patting yourselves on the back, there's 2 students that I know of. You know, people say, if it could just prevent one death, if it could prevent one death with this mask, then so be it. Well, I know of 2 students, one who got a letter from a doctor exempting them from a mask. And you guys are patting yourself on the back, but what they were told was they would have to wear a mesh mask and a face shield. So I hope you're all very proud of the award you get and everything you've been doing. There's another student who has a learning disability who doesn't wear a mask, but segregated from her classmates. After 3 days of segregation, she was removed. Very proud. You guys should be so proud of yourself. I don't know if this is a principle thing or what exactly it is, but you sit up there and make these decisions. I can't understand how, with a doctor that says that this student who has a medical condition can't wear a mask and it gets denied. It's ridiculous. Okay. Now, I'm not anti-mask. I'm pro-choice. You want to wear the mask, you wear the mask. But you can't even take a mask off for a picture for these kids who were 4th in the world. Not in the state, not in the city, in the world. And the superintendent says, no, they can't take their mask off. That's a shame. My question to you is what's your line? What's your line? Because today it's the mask, right? But tomorrow it's the vaccine. We're already seeing it in New York City. We're seeing it in California. And people are losing their jobs. And these police officers are standing out here telling me I have to have a mask to come in here. Not the officer, some administrator. I challenged them. What is this about? Is it about safety? If this is about my safety, put this mask on me for my safety. Officers, you're here to protect and serve? Serve me. Put this mask on if it's for my safety. Protect me. Nobody would do it because it's about compliance. And you're all complying, but I can walk up here, talk without my mask, but you have your rules. And I saw two months ago, you dragged somebody out of here in the chair. Police officers. I back the blue. I back the blue. I know they don't want to do this. I know they don't want to be mandated to get a vaccine. You have administrators that don't want to get the vaccine. But you take off your mask for a drink of water. That's awesome. Good for you. You have a beautiful face. Too bad I couldn't see it with smiling faces and pictures. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. I'm appalled. I'm appalled at what you're doing to our society and what you're doing for our children and to our children.
Your time is up.
Thank you so much. Wake up and have the scales fall off your eyes.
Deanna Fensel, followed by Thomas Scale.
Good evening. I've come here tonight to wish all of you good riddance. Parents are standing up for our children's civil rights. The biggest health threat to our children is you, school board members, that vote for these terrible mandates and policies that make 0 sense. We all know it. We all see it. We see the facts. We see the real statistics. The biggest health threat to our children is you guys. I no longer trust the school boards. I believe you only have interest in furthering personal agendas, financial opportunities, and love for power. You've caused more damage to our children than COVID has, and this is the reason parents have come together in numbers with the purpose to get all of you voted out. And your illegal mandates are racially divisive. NISD and SISD still continue to oppose governor's orders. Is it because you all have the most brown and black students per capita in San Antonio and feel you can do whatever you please because the parents won't say anything, unlike the other districts where it's mask optional? We see what government schools have turned into. We don't co-parent with the government. You guys are bullying the marginalized and the vulnerable. You preach inclusion in your curriculum, but instead of talking about it, y'all need to be about it. That's it.
Okay.
Thomas Scale, followed by Jean Tamez.
Yes, I'm here today to talk about the abuse my children get in Northside Independent School District by the teachers pushing critical race theory and queer theory on my children. One of your teachers thought it'd be a great idea to tell my son that he can't be patriotic because he's white. And white patriots are Nazis and racist. And then have everyone in the class give examples on how white people, when they're patriotic, are racist and Nazis. It's completely unacceptable. Also, the Black Lives Matter movement lessons my kids had to sit through, comparing them to the founding fathers and comparing them to the Boston Tea Party, it's ridiculous. The teachers need to focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic and leave their ideology at home. It's ridiculous. I don't know if you know the books that your district recommends for my children to read, but 100% of them are critical race theory, anti-white, anti-cop, anti-American drivel, and or queer theory, where if you're heterosexual, you're evil as well. I had my son take a picture this Monday of the books in the front of the library on display, recommended that he read. And I figured, let me look and see what they're about. First book I was hopeful for, it was This Way Madness Lies, 15 of Shakespeare's most notable works, reimagined. From the School Library Journal, the organization I guess that y'all get y'all's books from and are recommended to you, Queer and Diverse. This Shakespeare anthology takes 15 of the Bard's most iconic work and builds an eclectic collection that successfully subverts the original white heteronormative canon. Well, we know where that goes. I read the kids' review on it, and they were horrified by it. It was pure trash. The next book that I looked up was The Black Friend on Being a Better White Person. Pure racism, every generalization about white people you can imagine there. White people are evil and bad, and they treat other colors. The next book, all of these books are on the front display, is Muted, recommended for 12-year-olds. For 17-year-old Denver, music is everything. Writing, performing, her ultimate goal, escaping her very small, very white hometown, because white people are evil. The kids' review was, this is horrifying, awful book. It depicts graphic scenes of rape, murder, and drug abuse. None of this was mentioned in the summary. Well, of course not. They can't say what the book's really about because it's pornography. Half the books are pure pornography. I'm not against ban. I don't want to ban books. I've read thousands of books. Hundreds of them I wouldn't let my children read. And these are the books that your school district is pushing on the kids, telling them, one of the books that's very famous, Lawn Boy, it's there. They're pushing it on the children. It is child pornography. Please stop teaching critical race theory, focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic, and stop abusing my children sexually with your pornography and physically with the mass, whatever, and also mentally with your critical race theory.
Jean Tamez, followed by Jamie Waddell.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank the members of the school board for serving our community and our school district. I appreciate you. I'm here today to voice my concern over children wearing masks in school. My own grandchildren last year spent the whole year at home in a safe environment because their mother, my daughter, did not want to send them to school wearing a mask all day for 7 or 8 hours a day. I know that it's a very big controversy, but our side has been ignored. That our children need to breathe air. And the studies that have been given, the CDC does not acknowledge. One by the NIH that gives all kinds, this was done before COVID, nurses and doctors, and they did all kinds of masks. And it didn't matter. It cuts down on their oxygen. They're breathing CO2. There's almost 107,000 students in our district. Imagine all of the nasty masks all over the place carrying bacteria and germs and viruses. But the main issue that I'm standing here is for this. On August 17th, 2021, Northside Independent School District made a decision to mask almost 107,000 children. That decision is illegal, and it's still illegal. 144 entities in Texas are defying the order of the state to not require masks to be worn. NISD is one of them. And I know this, that you have been served a letter by the state, and I know that you're putting it off until you can come to court. And in the meantime, our children are still having to wear these masks even though the COVID numbers are going down. I've kept track of them. So as an educator, retired from Northside School District, as a mother of 2 daughters that graduated in Northside, and as a grandmother of one who has graduated from high school, one who's in high school, one in middle school, and one in elementary, I have always loved Northside, and it saddens me that this has happened in our district. I implore you to rescind the mask mandate in our schools. Thank you.
Jamie Waddell, followed by Ross. I apologize. Last name starts with a J. I apologize.
My name is Jamie Waddell. I have 2 children in Northside Independent School District. We moved from California to San Antonio last summer in order to get away from things like an illegal mask mandate. My children did not want to attend school this year when the mandate was put in place. They told me they wanted to stay home. I told them no. I said they needed to go to school. It was important for them to go to school, and this wasn't going to be forever. You guys are making it sound like it's going to be forever. You also stated that you have half per capita of the amount of cases as other school districts like us. However, online, you're missing about 90 of your campuses with data, including O'Connor, Taft, and Marshall. So until you have complete data, you can't tell us that you have half the cases per capita. You're violating the TEA. The TEA put out guidance on September 17th, 2021, stating that per GA 38, school systems cannot require students or staff to wear a mask. So now you're in violation of the TEA, the governor, and the Texas Supreme Court ruling. You're also giving your teachers a power trip. Students are being bullied by teachers about masks. My son was yelled at in the hallway because he took his mask down in order to take a deep breath because he'd been in his mask for 6 hours already. And he hadn't had a break. He just wanted to breathe. In one of my daughter's classes, one of her schoolmates was made an example of and bullied by a teacher for pulling his mask down to take a drink of water. She said to him that it's students like him that are making it so everyone else is getting sick. And she doesn't want to get sick, and she doesn't want kids to miss school. Now, as of yesterday, that same boy is not allowed to drink water in her classroom. That is abusive. That is an abuse of control, and she should not be allowed to do that. You guys ignore data. You ignore science, and you listen to whining parents that are scared to send their kids out of their house instead of listening to facts. There are over 45 studies in the National Library of Medicine that state that masks don't work in mitigating the spread of a virus. Viruses spread through aerosols. Aerosols go right through the mask. Yeah, it might protect from droplets, but droplets adhere to the law of gravity. They go directly to the ground. So you're not protecting us. You don't care about the kids' health. If you really cared about the kids' health, you would work on air circulation in the buildings. You would put them outside and get them natural vitamin D. That is what's proven to help the health of our students and children.
Ross, and then, Ross, I apologize. Last name starts with a J. Sorry, apologize. Followed by William Thomas.
Good evening, board. My name is Ross Upshaw. I'm a small business owner in Helotes and have 4 children that go to Northside schools in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. I'm here today to speak up for my children's rights to have a fair and proper education unmasked. The last time any of my children had a normal school year was when the now 4th grader was in 1st grade. Such a sad childhood experience. Besides that, as a board, you have ignored GA 38, executive order from our governor, and the most recent TEA guidelines to take law into your own hands. What a poor example for the fine young men and women that are growing up in Northside District. You've taken away their right to be seen, to be heard, to smile, to breathe. There is a significant deficit around the district in reading and math scores. I can't imagine a 6-year-old learning to read when him and his teacher has a mask on. At one time, social emotional development was a focus in the district, but now it's taken a backseat at the most opportune time. Being forced to wear masks has caused our children to have loneliness, lack of social contact, inability to read others' facial expressions, disconnection from teachers, and much more harm than good. Statistically, I'm sure you've looked at the data that proves the virus is no more dangerous than the flu virus in children. The fact is that a child has a greater risk of dying in an auto accident on the way to school than they do dying of COVID. We don't have enough time tonight to debate if masks work, but even Dr. Fauci, director of National Institutes of Health, has said only those with exuberating symptoms should wear a mask. I was recently told by an NISD staff at one of my kids' schools to be patient. I, along with many here tonight, are done being patient. We were patient all last year with the pointless health screeners every day. We were patient in the spring when my family attended our son's outdoor middle school band concert in the parking lot and had to submit a health screener to enter a coned area and wear a mask in the outside parking lot. It was embarrassing to then watch the students play their instrument through a hole that was cut in their mask. It's exhausting to have to fight for a simple free right for our children at a time when you want the public to be positive and excited about their child's education. You have given us the least amount of hope. I have no doubt that many families are pulling their children out of school and taking them to charter schools or avoid education altogether. What a sad time we're living in.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time's up. Thank you.
William Thomas, followed by Michelle Gonzalez.
Good evening, members of the school board. Excuse me. My name is Bill Thomas, and I'm an 18-year veteran of Northside and a proud member of the Northside AFT. And I know we've had our issues with the district, but I believe the union stands with you on the mask mandate, okay? I teach 6th and 7th grade studies, social studies at Zachary Middle School, and I want to talk briefly about the issue of substitute teachers. Everybody knows we have a shortage. One way you have addressed that is with a pay raise, and on behalf of my wife, Yvonne, 30 years with Northside, retired, we thank you for that. But there's another issue. We hear that the superintendent has told the principals to make the subs feel welcome, and they do in my experience, but I think we can do better. And I've talked to subs and other teachers about certain ways we could make it improved. If a substitute teacher is working a full day, do not ask that substitute teacher to fill in another period during his or her conference time. Subs need that break. They're in a classroom with kids they don't know. It can be very, very stressful. In my own experience as a sub many, many years ago, it's difficult to deal with students you don't know. And let's face it, most subs are not trained, experienced teachers. They just aren't. 2, if a substitute teacher has to call the administrators about a disruptive student, the student should be removed from that room for the period. End of story. Not counseled and sent back. It's just too hard on the subs. And number 3, don't switch subs assignments when they show up. They often think they're going to work for a certain person. They line up with that person, and then they're switched. I realize administrators have a tough job, but that may help us keep subs. I ask that you consider these options. It may go a long way to keeping our subs happy on a job most critically needed. And again, I support the mask mandate. I work with a population of students who are often too young to be vaccinated. I hear very few complaints about the masks. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
Michelle Gonzalez, followed by Serena Lee.
Hello, thank you for this time. As you mentioned, my name is Michelle Gonzalez, and well, here I am again. Some of us are, again, standing in the gap as a voice for those that seemingly don't have one anymore. Just hoping to strike a chord or two of those that still have the ability to reason and to use common sense when considering this ineffective, degrading mask mandate. I really don't know what more it's going to take. I don't understand how people can't see what's going on here. Our freedoms are getting stripped, one mask at a time, one injection at a time. Since the inception of this pandemic, more and more information has come out proving how the measures taken to stop the spread have caused more devastation than it has improved the situation. The negative effects have been discussed here in detail, this meeting, previous meetings, but you all don't listen or you just don't care. We need to remember that we pay board members. Everyone here needs to remember, you all need to remember. I hope and pray that others here will push back. If you don't push back now, they'll be forcing the shots as well. Your children will no longer be your children. As someone else mentioned, we don't want to co-parent with the government. If enough people do push back, you all will have no choice but to do the right thing and let people decide what's best for them and their families. We must not comply. We have rights afforded to us by our Constitution and by the God Almighty that you all prayed to in the beginning of this meeting. We all prayed for God's mercy. Why can't we show that same mercy to these kids, these poor kids running around with these face diapers? You talked about respect and the declaration of no bullying. Well, why don't you all stop bullying these kids and some educators into submission? Why don't you respect their rights? Truth is, you don't respect them. You don't respect their individual rights. This is not about safety, as others have mentioned. This is about control. Well, this is my child, my choice. These people have rights, and I pray to God that you all will listen, that you will grow a conscience. We must do what's right, and may God have mercy on us all. I brought this Constitution. Everybody seems to have forgotten the rights that are afforded to us by this Constitution. I'm going to leave it here, or if someone wants it, I'll bring it to you. But this is a copy for you all, and I encourage you to read it again, or read it for the first time. Thank you.
Serena Lee, followed by Heather Howard.
Good evening. My name is Serena Lee. I am an NISD mom of 2 boys, one of which has special needs with a medical exemption. I am here today to speak to you trustees of the board and inform you that your time is up. The voices of parents and students alike have fallen on deaf ears. You all could care less what we have to say, as it is evident by your continued illegal actions reference GA 38, with the new TEA guidelines. I am an advocate and a voice for not only my children, but for other children's parents who cannot be here today, for fear of being reprimanded, for fear of being targeted, or for fear of being issued a CTW, which Northside loves to hand out, or flat out just being denied entry. I'm here today to say, make masks optional. I respect those who choose to wear a mask, who choose to put on a mask on their children. So NISD needs to respect our choice for choosing not to muzzle our kids. We do not co-parent with any entity, be it school board, state, or the federal government. I'd like to ask the board members a simple question, which I know you cannot respond to. What happened to my body, my choice? Does that only work when it fits your narrative? I'd like to remind you all that you are board educators. You are not a medical board. And for every medical professional y'all pay off to agree with your narrative, we have medical personnel who agree with ours. Masks have been proven time and time again to not work. But if it makes you feel safe, if it's your security blanket, by all means, wear it. That's your God-given right as an American. But you will not, and I can guarantee the schools, the teachers, and the board will not force those of us who choose to remain maskless. You will not force us to wear one. If we respect your decision to wear a mask, you will respect ours. We all know that the real reason you're pushing masks so hard isn't for safety, because if it was truly about the children, they would be wearing N95s, and correctly at that. They would be changing them every 4 hours. But no, it's not about safety. It's about financial gain and the funding that comes with selling out our children. Our children, not your children. In closing, I'd like to say one last thing to this board. Remember our faces. We are coming for each and every one of you when you're up for re-election in 2025. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Heather Howard, followed by Wanda Longoria.
Hello, my name is Heather Howard. I am here today to speak on behalf of teachers, students, and our children and staff that are unable to speak up for themselves. I have 2 children that attend Northside ISD. One is 7 in 2nd grade, and one is 3 in the Head Start program. My children have lived their whole entire school existence under COVID restrictions, and enough is enough. Masks are no longer about our children's safety. It is child abuse, and we are over it. We are grooming our children for predators. We raise our kids to tell us when they feel they're uncomfortable, and masks are making them feel uncomfortable. And so now they're confused because it's an authority figure that is doing this to them and making them feel uncomfortable. Masks are used to suppress and render children helpless and unrecognizable in times of kidnapping and child trafficking. So tell me, Northside, how is what you're doing any different by masking our children? Not only are masks used by predators, they are also bacteria-ridden pieces of material that we're covering our children's faces with for 8 hours a day. Tests have been done on masks after just 1 day of use, and they have found harmful bacteria such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, meningitis, and E. coli, just to name a few. My children have never had so many runny noses and sore throats in their whole lives as they have since school started. They also have rashes and small acne bumps on their faces due to these masks that they have to wear for 8 hours a day. They're also complaining about headaches. And it's mind-boggling to me that a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old are getting headaches at their age. There have also been tests that show that they're getting these headaches because of the CO2. They're breathing in these harmful fumes throughout the day. So I'm just curious, how is wearing a mask keeping our students safe and healthy when they're bacteria-ridden, causing headaches, and they're breathing in these harmful fumes all day? We the people are taking a stand not only against enforced mask mandates, but against all mandates that may come. We are a free country, and we will do everything in our power to keep it that way. Every child has a right to a free public education, and no child should be denied for any reason. I choose to not fear and stand against forced mandates. Our children deserve to be respected, whether they want to wear a mask or not. It should be our choice and our decisions. They deserve to see faces. They deserve to see smiles on their teachers' and friends' faces. And seeing faces is something that's very important for speech and emotional development, which both of my children have suffered in greatly. They deserve to be able to learn without these obscurities inhibiting them.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Oh, thank you.
Wanda Longoria, followed by Jared Rhodes.
Madam President, school board members, and Dr. Woods, Northside AFT would like to publicly thank you for continuing to keep students and staff safe, for working to resolve issues at the district level in regard to plexiglass and other safety protocols, as well as continuing to review the metrics and making those difficult decisions during this time of the pandemic, which are not always popular, but we know that your hearts are there to try to keep our students as safe as possible. Northside AFT would like to stress that our substitutes are incredibly valuable to the district. They help us to continue to offer quality educational service to our students, and without them, our students would suffer. It's incredibly important to pay them a competitive wage so NISD can attract and retain them from our area of pool. We would also like to remind the district that equally as important as pay are the working conditions that substitutes have encountered and that you heard tonight. If we're able to attract and retain substitutes, it's crucial that we respect their schedule and their time. We must continue to support them and encourage them to return to campuses and do the valuable work that is needed. Northside AFT members have expressed some concerns recently with the way HB 4545 is being addressed and the problematic issues with finding quality tutors to assist in fulfilling this state requirement. Does the district have a consistent plan to address HB 4545? Northside AFT believes that there should be a plan that is recommended to elementary and secondary campuses across the district. Some campuses have been able to schedule time throughout the day that does not impact planning and prep, conference time, and duty-free lunch, and we're very thankful for that. Other campuses, however, have told us that's not the case on their campus. To make all campuses equitable, a district model would be helpful. It's also been reported that teachers have been told they must tutor to fulfill the requirement. That's not an option for them as it is on other campuses. It's mandated by their administration. Northside AFT would like to know how the district's helping support campuses as they make their plans for HB 4545. We want to thank you again for addressing issues we've brought to your attention and hope to continue working together to resolve concerns that support our teachers, staff, students, parents, and community. We invite Dr. Woods and the board president to meet with us to discuss these concerns and questions, and we thank you for your time and service.
Jared Rhodes, followed by Joseph Riley.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jared Rhodes. I'm here on behalf of Amber Dorsey and her daughter, Mila. If you haven't recently saw, there was a news report yesterday about a student at NISD at Brennan High School that was refused to go into school because of she would not wear a mask. And this is the mask. Basically what happened was that her daughter is not allowed to attend school with a doctor's note saying that she, cannot wear a mask. So I'm here on behalf of them because she was issued a CTW by the NISD. And as her boyfriend and just her daughter, who I believe is pretty much my daughter, they're a voice that cannot be heard. So I'm here for them. I'm not here to get mad or anything like that. I'm just here to speak up for people that can't speak. She really can't. She's a mom that just cares about her child and just wants to do best for her. I've seen this whole mask mandate. I've sat there in the back and I've seen people come up here and get upset, and some people are supportive. I have 2 children at home, They both wear the mask. They have no problem with it. They do whatever it is they have to do so they can go to school. Her son, my girlfriend's son, Tyree, who's in Luna Middle School, he wears the mask, no problem. He just wants to go to school. This is the same thing with Mila. She just wants to go to school. That's all she wants. But I still have not, she's on her 10th day without actually going to school because the school, their suggestion was a mesh mask, like you've heard, and a face covering. That was their suggestion. So if this is about whatever, why suggest something that's not even going to do anything? I really just don't understand. You know, and the last thing I just want to point out is, you know, it's on your agenda that the third thing you do is the Pledge of Allegiance. And the last thing is justice for all. So I would really like to point that out. And I thank you for your time.
Joseph Riley, followed by Crystal Cara.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me. I just had this moment of clarity as I was standing here and listening to two people that came up before me. And I realized, you don't answer to us, you answer to the union. That's the evil person in this scenario. And I didn't have that clarity until just now, as I saw a gentleman taking copious notes about what was being said by each and every single one of us, even though it's recorded. I struggle with masks. You guys have been beat to death with that. So I have a different topic that I want to talk to you about. First week of school this year, we're doing our spin around, checking out the classrooms, and my daughter goes into her theater class. First thing I notice is an LGBTQ flag in the classroom. Catches me off guard slightly, don't understand why it's appropriate for a classroom. Benefit of the doubt. We raise our children to not judge anyone by who they are, but by their character. First week of school, this same teacher passed around an assignment and played a game with the children, asking them to pronounce and to prescribe to everyone in the classroom what their pronouns are. My daughter's in 7th grade. I cannot and will not allow something like that to happen. When you begin to sexualize the classroom by bringing your ideologies into a space intended purely for academics, you've crossed a line. This same teacher, that same week, asked the students playing a very similar game to stand on one side if they're vaccinated and to stand on the other side if they're not vaccinated. Does everyone here understand HIPAA and what is protected under that federal law? In no way, shape, or form is it appropriate for any teacher to segregate their students based on their vaccination status. That is where we are. You are creating an environment that is hostile for children to learn in. And I will wait patiently and pray for you guys to have clarity around the mask. I would love to see the data, Mr. Woods, that you guys keep speaking of. You should post it on your website. I think it'd be important for you guys to be transparent about what that is. But coming back to that other piece, this teacher, within the first week of school, has breached my daughter's integrity and began to instill her ideologies into her. That is not her place. And I will not tolerate that. And I need you to understand that crystal clear, because the next steps might unfold. Thank you for the time.
Crystal Cara, followed by, I think it's Monica Laus.
Good evening, I'm Crystal Carvajal, and I am a mother of 2 boys who attend Northside Independent School District. We moved from California over the summer because of the crazy lockdowns that we were having, from masks to not letting them go to school, basically not breathing. And come to find out, we come here and 2 days, you guys practically tricked us into signing up, enrolling them into school. You knew we didn't have a choice. We couldn't find them a new school. We had no choice but to have them go to school. And I thought, while I was watching you guys celebrate the wonderful students who have accomplished so much, it kind of made me realize that I'm over here struggling just having them go to school because they don't want to anymore. Every day they come home and they're just confused as to why they can't not be unmasked. And we have always taught them that whenever they feel uncomfortable in a situation from an adult figure, any authority figure, that they should come and tell us that they don't feel comfortable. And here we are confusing them that if an authority figure such as their teacher or their principal is telling them to keep their mask on and they feel uncomfortable, well, now they have to do what that person says. So when a sexual predator comes and they tell them, don't tell your mom, don't tell your dad, it's our secret, do this, do that, well, then they're going to be compliant to do that as well, because they've been trained now through you guys to be compliant to something that they don't feel comfortable to do. So it's so confusing as parents. First of all, I don't even think you should even have a say, because we don't co-parent together, just as so many have been vocal about that. And speaking of predators, I just wanted to point out that I feel like a lot of you guys, the school board members, are nicely taking notes. Can you also write on your notes that you guys are being bullied? You guys are bullying our kids, and to continue to wear the mask, even though Governor Abbott has clearly stated in his Executive Order 38 that it is not supposed to be mandated. If you're some of the parents may be confused about that, you still have the choice to wear the mask if you choose to. I just don't understand why the school board doesn't read into the law that says you should not mandate, and yet you guys are going against the Supreme Court. I also wanted to point out that in the Texas Education Agency, it states that you shouldn't cover their airway, you shouldn't put something over their mouth, and you guys are clearly denying the fact that the Texas Education Agency, of what it says.
And I'm sorry, you're out of time.
Thank you.
Monica Laus, followed by Matt Durham.
Please give, Mr. Galindo, may you raise your hand?
My name's Monica Leos. My daughters attend Northside ISD at Rhodes Elementary. They are 5 and 7. One of my 5-year-olds, she was born with her jaw setback, and we didn't even know for 4 months. She had to be hospitalized because she was the exact same weight at 4 months and at birth. And so when she speaks, she's talking like, and I need this, and I need that, and I'm gonna have fun at school today, but that's the way she normally speaks. And then y'all put a mask on her, and she's suffocating every single day that she's getting off that bus. And there's no medical exemption for her. And my 7-year-old gets off the bus with a headache every single day. Mom, I have a headache. Mom, I have a headache. I was like, take off your mask, baby. At first I was giving her Tylenol, but then I noticed it just goes away after an hour or two. And she's like this at school for 8 hours. So now they've been at home for the past 5 school days because there's no option for her. I printed out from the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. It compiles 44 experimental studies and 65 publications, and it states over 30 adverse effects because of the mask. And they are not just small effects, they are serious, long-term
side effects from the mask. I get it, you want your COVID numbers to be low and whatnot. That's great, but at what cost? What is going to be their health cost in the long run? It causes facial deformities, it causes CO2 saturation, decreased oxygen levels, headaches, dizziness, lack of concentration, immune suppression, a vast majority of issues that are associated with wearing a mask, especially all day long. I then printed out for you, it's from Active Pure Medical. This is an alternative to a mask. You can put them in schools. I printed you studies for 5 big elementary schools and how the pathogens were decreased up to 100% in elementary schools. This is an option versus everybody fighting over the mask and what this works and doesn't work. And that way, people that have immune suppression, they can also benefit. And those that have medical issues wearing masks, they can also benefit. It's not just a one-sided. So until you decide to take off the mask, I cannot send my children knowing that y'all are causing them long-term physical harm.
Matt Durham.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matthew Durham, and I'm here once again to speak out against mask mandates. The good news is the third wave is over. Here in Bexar County, we are down to 650 daily cases over a 7-day average, down from our peak of 1,953. The virus is waning, and this is cause for celebration. The better news is that children continue to be the most resilient group when it comes to COVID-19. Surprisingly, a child is more resilient to the disease than a vaccinated adult. Data from the CDC has shown that 616 deaths among vaccinated adults in a 2-month period, a far greater rate of death than the 46 deaths among those younger than 17 in that same period. If anyone wants to do the math, a child is 13 times less likely to die of COVID-19 than a vaccinated adult. Continuing on this track of good news, Bexar County has one of the highest vaccination rates in the country. We are currently pushing a 90% single dose rate. Children do not pose a threat to this community. They do not pose a threat to themselves. The state of fear that everyone seems to be locked into is no way to live life. The state of government officials attempting to do something, anything, to get control of a pandemic is no way to govern. This pandemic has proven resilient. It has survived the statewide mask mandates and lockdowns that defined the second wave. It has survived the vaccination rates far above what is considered herd immunity during the third wave. The fact is, and this is hard for the human mind to comprehend, this virus is beyond our control. There is no policy, public or private, that can stop the spread of the virus. We need to accept that COVID-19 is a cyclical virus, and we need to treat it as such. That means stopping emergency mandates and getting back to a normal life. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the last person who signed up, Ms. Freeman.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Woods. Trustees, next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Is there a motion? We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is under CNI, Communities and Schools.
Thank you, President Freeman, Dr. Woods, Board of Trustees. As Dr. Ridgely is coming to the mic, this is a series of supports for our students, some that we've already spoken to you about, but they're funded through various funding sources, and we wanted to do a quick review in case you had any questions.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Woods.
So we wanted to just recap the communities and schools programs that we are proposing for this school year. So the first one is what you have seen on Title I campuses. It's called the Integrated Student Support Program, and it provides a caseworker on 24 of our Title I schools to help coordinate resources, to help work with the family into removing the barriers for education. And this particular program is funded out of Title I. The second program is called Project Access, and it's a clinical caseworker that provides counseling to identified students on the current CIS caseload at the Title I schools. So our Title I schools are really a desert of mental health. There's no mental health providers in that area, and so this particular clinician really has an opportunity to connect Title I students to clinical mental health services. This particular program is funded out of Title IV Safe Schools programming. The third we've talked about when we brought the ESSER presentation to you a couple of months ago, and it is the SEEDS program, so Social Emotional Education Development, and that's the mental health program that pairs a clinical mental health professional with a clinical master's level social worker. And each feeder pattern has a clinical team that helps to, one, provide counseling as a related service to identified students, and then the social worker works with the family to provide student resources, family resources, and then we'll coordinate the aftercare. And that particular program is funded out of the ESSER fund. And then the final program is the re-engagement team, and this re-engagement team has been working with campuses across the district on identified youth who have not been engaged and to help remove the barriers to get them back to school and engaged. And so that this particular program is funded out of ESSER as well, and you saw that in the ESSER application. So that is the update for communities and schools that we wanted to provide you.
Just some context, I had asked Drs. Jordan and Ridgely to bring this and do a brief presentation. You've seen or heard of these programs, but when put together, they total up to a pretty healthy sum of funds from 3 or 4 different sources. So we wanted to just review them again instead of putting it on consent agenda, just to make sure the board was comfortable with where those were. And so that's the reason why you're seeing this again. And this, we would ask your approval.
For approval.
I've got some questions.
Ms. Chumley?
Yes, ma'am.
On it. Let me just. So, Ms. Ridgely, Dr. Ridgely, so give me an example on the very first one, the CIS Integrated Student Services, because I've been told that there's different. So we have Irene at Saul Ross, who is just amazing, amazing woman. And then we had one, another Irene, who left us to another school district at Esparza.
Right.
And I'm not sure if Esparza, and I know that Irene left and then we replaced her for 1 year, but it was my understanding that we may not have that position for the next year, and Esparza is a Title I school. So if you can just help me understand, like, what is the requirement for the principal? Because I have found the individuals that have been in these positions to have just been amazing and to have addressed, I mean, so many needs for our students outside of the classroom that prevent them from being able to be successful in school. Sure. And so I guess I'm not understanding why we would have schools that are Title I schools that wouldn't want this position, and what supplements it?
Sure. So Irene at Ross is a family engagement liaison. So she's a Northside employee, whereas the community schools caseworkers that I'm talking about in the first program are communities and schools or social workers, case managers. So to step back a little bit in the CIS funding. So it's a match funding. So CIS funds half of the unit and Northside funds half of the unit. And so there has to be a communities and schools match to a principal who wants to buy. And so in this particular situation, 24 of our Title I middle schools have elected to, or had the funds to match
with CIS's funds to fund a campus unit.
How many Title I elementaries do we have?
Oh, 40, oh, I'm going to give you the wrong number. I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know it off the top of my head. It's upper 30s.
Yeah.
Upper 30s? Okay, so half to 3/4 have this position of our Title I.
I think we've got two things going on. The positions that you're talking about are positions that campuses have funded through their own allocation of Title I dollars that comes to the campus, to the principal to use at their discretion.
And so that
This
would,
is separate.
but that would be, Brian, then, any campuses that have a family engagement liaison?
That would be funded out of Title I.
That would be, so, I just want to understand who is where, because I think that it's a great program, and I think these individuals do an outstanding job, and you can really tell when one leaves a campus that the community, you know, that is used to having them there, you know, when they need shoes, or they need a coat, or they don't have food, or there's been some trauma in the house. I mean, there's just, you know, these individuals create such a bond with their community and with their kids. And so, so then schools have a choice. So if they can choose to use their Title I funds to pay for a family engagement liaison, and that would be a Northside employee. Then we have this partnership with Communities in School that we use our state comp funds for, and they are Communities in School employees that do similar to the family engagement liaison.
Yes,
that's correct. Okay, I just wanted to understand, because I've gotten confused on that when I've asked for different, you know, well, why don't you have someone doing that? And that,
What we've tried to do over the years is cobble together multiple funding sources to maximize the resources at as many campuses as possible.
right, and so there could be that schools that have that decide to use their Title Is for it, that's where they see their primary need for that, for those funds, versus some of the others. And then on the re-engagement team, so, hang on just a second. How are the students, are the families identified as being disconnected?
So they're identified by the campus principal and the campus attendance team. And so either they've not come back, they've not returned, and so they're out trying to find those kiddos that we call leavers, or they're beginning to have attendance concerns. And so they're working to do home visits, of course, in partnership with our school advocacy and school choice department, with campus administrators, with CIS, with counselors. And so they're identified by the campus.
So let me ask you, so I had a woman in my community reach out to me because some neighbors had told her I was on the board. And they just moved here from out of state. And her son is at one of our high schools and is not engaged at all. Mom's really worried about him. And, you know, so I called the principal who addressed it and, you know, reached out to this young man. But he wasn't engaged. He was in school, but he was not engaged. And he was getting depressed. And he was, you know, it just was not a good situation. So how would we have found him?
That's a good question, because the title is maybe misleading in this particular situation. So in the situation you're alluding to, I would see that as a great referral for this SEEDS program. And so that happens through the campus counselor. They're the folks who talk with the parent and the student about the services, and then do the referral to the SEEDS team. And so the re-engagement team is focusing right now, their effort is to find families that we haven't found and then start to work on the attendance. And so it sounds like this particular young man may benefit from a referral to the SEEDS program.
So if it's a new student, no one knows them, and I guess I guess the question is, and I know that we're focusing more on the social emotional health of our kids. Is there somewhere within her day, that we would have found, I mean, we find them, because I know what you're saying, it'd be a good referral, but if you don't know a student and you just have a student sitting in the back of the room and they're quiet and you don't know anything about them.
Right. And so we
How,
rely on.
how do we find those kids that are in need?
Sure. So we rely on teachers who have relationships with the students to come to the counseling office. We will do some promotion around the SEEDS team. Now that they're up and running, we wanted to make sure we'd gotten all the kinks out prior to letting a broader community know that the service exists.
Yeah, I'm really glad we're doing these things, and I think if anything has shown, we absolutely need it after what the kids have been through with COVID.
Agree.
And we've needed it before, because I think that there's lots of kids out there that are in need that don't turn to us or an adult for help, and until it's too late for them sometimes.
Agree.
Too.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
And you need approval, you need action, we take action on this? Then I move approval.
Okay. Gerald has. Thank you, Ms. Chumley.
Thank you, Karen. Dr. Ridgely, I was curious to know, and I think these are great programs, I support it. One of the things that I kind of wanted to know is, how are we going to promote these type things? I mean, is there going to be a flyer sent out to say, hey, should you need something from our campus, right? And I'm just saying our campus, that these will be at, how will a parent know?
So that's the next step, is the communication plan specifically around the SEEDS team. And also, the social service side of the re-engagement team. And so we are getting ready to start that phase of communication. Like I said, we wanted to make sure we got all the kinks worked out and all the people in place so that we didn't create a problem of, not being able to serve requests when they came in.
So
Social media, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Social media, newsletters, communication from campus, connected to campus newsletters, however we can get the word out.
Okay, good, yeah, good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ridgely. Karen, I move that we approve.
There has been a motion, Gerald.
Oh,
A
I'm sorry,
second.
I wasn't paying attention. Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second for approval of the CIS funding. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Thank you very
Dr.
much.
Ridgely.
Have a great evening.
All right, next item on the agenda, under Facilities and Operations, schematic design for Leon Valley Elementary School. Mr. San
Karen,
Miguel?
could I ask one thing while
Oh.
Jacob's walking up here?
I'm sorry?
I was going to ask if I just ask one thing as Jacob walks up. Brian, I would really like to not lose sight of these programs. And at the end of the school year, Dr. Ridgely, I would really like to get some stats on how many kids have been served and what we've seen
Thank you.
from it. So if we can just not lose sight of that, because I always forget.
Yeah, we'll at least by then, if not maybe perhaps a couple of times between now and then.
That would be great.
Maybe once in the spring and once in the summer.
Good, thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Woods, and Board of Trustees. The 2018 bond program provided for an upgrade of the administration suite at Leon Valley Elementary. And as part of the schematic design, the architect was asked by staff to evaluate the front of the campus to include the existing drop-off canopy. Approval of the schematic design for Leon Valley Elementary as presented by LPA is recommended, and Sarah Flowers will be doing the presentation.
Good evening, Ms. Freeman, members of the board, Dr. Woods. So as Jacob noted, I am here to present to you the Leon Valley Elementary School Admin Edition. So as I'm sure you are all aware, Leon Valley is located on Huebner Road, very close to the offices for central office. So the existing campus is originally built in the 60s, 70s, added on throughout the years. And you can see some images here of the existing front of campus. There's a pretty kind of iconic, I would say, canopy structure that's out in front of that school. That kind of gives it a neat character. And so we're looking to honor that as we move forward with the new design. And there's also some pretty great trees out in the front that we want to salvage as much as possible. So this is that existing plan. And here is phase 1 of a greater master plan, which would include this admin addition as well as window upgrades and ADA upgrades to the campus. This is a site plan, floor plan showing the proposed addition. So what you see in yellow is the new admin, and what you see in orange are renovated spaces associated with that new addition. Here is a blow up of that floor plan. So everything shown in blue is now going to be new admin function. And where the admin was previously, up here, where music and these 2 classrooms are, is being converted into small classroom spaces. Here is a blow up even closer, and this is signifying where the views are that we're going to see in the upcoming images. But if you'll notice on the existing plan, you can see again, music is still in the same place, but all of these other admin functions are being consolidated into this new admin addition. So here are a few aerials showing what that new entry would look like. Something that we talked about with the building committee as well as with facilities is that the main entry could be a little bit difficult to find. And so this is helping to signify that main entry. And we're also increasing the size of the secure lobby and the lobby space beyond, the secure vestibule, I'm sorry, and the lobby beyond, and adding that admin building. So you can see the views from the 2 sides there. And then this would be the view from the bus drop-off at that new kind of main entry with a canopy. It is a new canopy, though the old one has a lot of charm and kind of significance to that campus. We're paying homage to it with the shape of this new canopy, but the existing one has kind of fallen into some disrepair. So as we're not anticipating potentially doing work on this campus for some time, we want to go ahead and make that canopy safe as we move forward. So this is straight on view. And then creating some green spaces on either side of it, as well as some opportunities to get in some color. We know we like to see the kind of nice primary colors at the elementary school level and make it a bright, inviting place for the kiddos. So we're proposing some perforated panels that will be used to help designate bus and parent pickup, as well as just create some pops of color. And then we have this kind of great motte of trees on the other side of that canopy that we've designed a student seating area around, so there is the potential to have some classroom space outside or kind of a shaded area for the students to wait as they wait on their parent or the bus to pick them up. So kind of a great opportunity off to the side there. And that is the presentation. Any questions?
The building committee reviewed this, and there were some changes requested, so thank you very much
Absolutely.
for incorporating those. I think it looks great, and I move approval of it. Karen, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, so one thing, on the signage, I assume it's going to be changed, but where it says 7111, it would say Hebner Road, right?
I believe the standard is to just have the numbers, but if I'm incorrect, we'll change that to say Hebner.
Is that right? Let's look at that, because it looks odd, right? 7111.
Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah.
111 what?
Actually, I don't remember us having street addresses on our schools, do we? On the marquees?
We're required to have some element of street address from a fire code perspective, but we'll look at whether the street itself has to be identified.
Or just leave the numbers off.
Yeah,
Is that-
well, I think the numbers have to stay, but we'll check on it.
Then put the street address with it, because
Put
that
the
just
Huebner
looks
Road on
weird.
there.
People will be saying, well, what does that mean?
I'll let you answer
looks
that
like-
question.
We'll start a whole discussion on what the 7111 means.
Sure, we'll take a look at that. and get back to you.
Thank you. It looks nice. I would second, well, I'm president. Is there somebody else that would like to second that motion? Thank you. Joseph, do we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. It really looks nice.
It does look nice.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next item that we have for you tonight is the schematic design for the new entry at Gregorio Esparza, I'm sorry, Elementary School. Currently, we have an ALE and ADA upgrades project at this campus. And during the interior color review by Building Committee, a request was made to evaluate the front entry of the campus, and the architect has provided some options for consideration by the board. The intent is to incorporate the proposed new entry into the contract via change order, and the funding will come from the 2018 bond program. So presenting for us tonight is Sean Carlson with KNRG.
Good evening, President Freeman, Dr. Woods, board members. Tonight I'm here to present two options for Esparza Elementary School canopy modification. And you can see, this is the canopy we're talking about and the one that goes back towards the main entrance. Okay. Again, this is the existing plan, the buildings, the canopy that goes back, and then the one that runs along the front. Some facts about the current canopy: it has 14-inch concrete columns, and the beam and those columns are 8 foot tall, so it's very short, very squatty. It's also painted a dark color, which also lends to making it feel lower than it is. There is an ash tree back in the corner right here that is a pretty healthy ash tree that may have to have some trimming done when we show you the options coming up. And the school colors are blue and white. I want to make note of that. So what we're recommending is the intersection right here shown in pink, where we're going to modify that canopy. We're going to give it some hierarchy. We're going to raise that up in both options. It's the same area that's affected in option 1 and option 2. This is a flat elevation, and this is the tower option. Next slide, please. And you can see we're going to address painting the beam white to give it a lighter feel, and then all the existing concrete columns that we don't remove, we're going to paint a full color with a white stripe, bringing that school color through. The center tower and the hierarchy, the pieces that we raise, we're going to paint blue, which is a school color. And if you go to the next slide, you can see that from a different angle. The ash tree that I was talking about that may have to have some trimming. Next slide, please. And then the canopy that goes back, the existing columns, we're recommending that we paint blue to carry that school color all the way back to that main entrance. Next slide, please. So another view of that same. Next slide. And one more. Next slide. And then option 2 is on the next slide. So again, we're modifying the same area, the intersection of those canopies, and creating some hierarchy, giving people a sense of where to go. This is Intersecting Gables. Next slide, please. And again, we're just changing that look a little bit to give a different option, having gables with a standing seam roof. On both options where we have openings, we'll have actually punched metal so that we can keep, hopefully, the wildlife bird habitat out of there. Next slide. Again, the same color scheme. We're going to paint primary colors with a stripe bringing the school colors through. Next slide. Again, another view, and looking straight on. And then the last slide shows the two options to compare side by side.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. By this time of the meeting, it was myself and Dr. Woods there and Melissa. I'd asked them to bring these two options to us. And quite honestly, I was a little concerned about the first one because it looked more like quite honestly, it looked more like a guard tower to me. But I asked that you bring back two because everyone has a different opinion. Any comments from?
I think they're great. I am sorry I had to leave too. I would love to have seen I think they're wonderful. Actually, I could support either one of them. I tend to like option one better, but I mean, I'm good if the will of the board is option two as well. Sean, you did a great job.
Thank you.
This is gonna look so wonderful when you drive up to that school. Oh my gosh.
Big facelift.
It's going to look very different.
It's going to be wonderful, and I love the colors on it. It's just going to be such a bright, kind of happy place to drive up to. So I would move option one, but again, what's kind of everybody else's preference? What do y'all?
I like both designs. They look nice. So, I mean, I have no preference. I mean, it's just,
Yeah, see
It
that?
is our opportunity here to make a
Yes.
decision, folks.
Karen, where were you leading on it? Because now when you look it up there,
When I look at option one, I think, well, who's up in the tower? You know, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's just the look for me, but that's just how I see it. It's just one perspective, so.
option one looks more of a modern than option two. Option two gives it a more general look, what we traditionally look at, but I like option one, gives it that modern look, in my mind. So I'm in favor of option one, but I can go either way.
yeah, that's me too. Sean,
I like option one also because it's more bold. To me, it just popped when I saw it. And so I could go with either one, but I prefer option one.
I prefer option one. It looks familiar to current campuses now compared to what it looks right, hopefully the upgrades will. So, it looks more similar to our newer structures where there are the high towers. I'll give you a couple examples. Warren Lee, well, just everything that's being touched right now that's curb appeal, students enjoy the feeling, and I would prefer option one.
so we have a motion for option one out there.
Not a
We
second.
just haven't had a second yet, I don't think.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for option one. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying.
You good either way?
Is there, Bobby, do you have a comment?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
Y'all handled it very well.
all right. So a motion and a second for option one. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. It is option one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, thank you for making sure that this came to us.
Sure.
And Sean, again, thank you for those designs and that it's at a price that we're going to be able to take care of too. Appreciate it.
Great job. All right.
Okay, the final item that we have for you tonight is the construction manager at risk for the fine arts replacement and renovation at John Jay High School. The 2018 and 2014 bond programs provided for the fine arts replacement and renovation at John Jay High School. The first phase of this construction delivery method is solicitation of the construction manager and establishing the fees for that service, which is based as a percentage of the construction cost. As final construction drawings are developed, a GMP or guaranteed maximum price is determined by the contractor and reviewed by the district consultants and owner. Any cost savings realized after construction is completed is returned 100% to the district. Requests for competitive sealed proposals for construction managers at risk were received on September 8th, 2021, and Texas Education Codes and Board Policies CV and CVB authorize this construction delivery method. Approval to award the contract for construction manager at risk delivery method for the fine arts replacement and renovation at John Jay High School to George General Contractors Limited is recommended. The anticipated percentage is 4.7%, which is comprised of the cost for general conditions of construction at 2.75% and the contractor's fee at 1.95%. The final GMP figure is anticipated to be established in May of 2022.
Okay. Questions?
Jacob, I just have one on the project management ability. Are they using their top end?
So the individuals that they selected to use in this proposal is actually the individuals that we have at the high school. So they're very strong individuals. Their years of experience just didn't meet the criteria to get maximum points.
Okay, but I'm just thinking about, because we've had, just in a hypothetical statement, we've had situations where it's strong, but like you said, not as much experience, and it really made a difference on that project management score. But this one is kind of in the middle then on that?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Okay, this is up for approval. Is there a motion?
I move approval of George Contractors as the CM at risk for the John Jay Auditorium Fine Arts Facility.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the CM at risk for John Jay Fine Arts replacement and renovation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate
That's a great combination, Mr. Lammers.
Well, and Jerry's here too.
We've done a little work with Mr. Lammers and George General Contractor.
Yeah, that's a good partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is business and finance. Dr. Barajas.
I'll take this one today, just because I got the history. So,
Okay.
as the board members will remember, it wasn't long after George Torres retired that we asked him to serve in this role, and he has done that for a number of years. He reached out to me several months ago and expressed a desire to retire from this role, to which I said, Mr. Torres, I have too much respect from you to say no. For you to say no. So I told him, I promised him we would find somebody else, and he was very thankful for that. He did express his gratitude to the board for asking him to serve in that role for that number of years. Subsequent to that, I did, after our conversation with Dave Gannon, ask him about this position and gauge his interest in this position. He said that he was interested, given that he had dropped back some in some other volunteer roles, both within the district and outside the district. The board will remember that this is a two-step process. We come to the board in September and submit a nomination, and then we come back to the board, I believe in November, and we allocate votes. You'll remember that because of our size as a taxing entity in the county, we have more than enough votes to elect a member and then typically allocate additional votes to candidates that other districts may nominate in the process. So the first step would be to nominate, if the board chooses, Mr. Gannon to serve in this role, and then we would come back to the board in November for the allocation of votes.
Comments? Questions?
I think David would do an outstanding job. I think he would represent us well and the citizens of Bear County too.
Yeah, I second that too. Yeah, no, he's done a great job, and I think by nominating him for this seat, it would be good for us as a district. So I would move for approval that we nominate Dave Gannon to represent us or to move him forward in the application.
Thank you. Second? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to nominate Dave Gannon for Board of Directors for Bear Appraisal District. Any other further comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, so we have Dave Gannon to represent us at Fair Appraisal, but we wait in anticipation of the entire process. Okay, next item on the agenda, appraisal rules.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Under 2604B of the Texas Tax Code, the appraisals from the 3 different counties are required to be submitted to the board, but that is it, submitted. There's no approval necessary, so we're submitting these as a discussion item only. And these are the appraisals that we received in late July, which we refer to as certified values, which the value of that particular number is to calculate our maximum compressed tax rate. Beyond that, we do not use these numbers necessarily to build our budget around, because the numbers that we receive in late July go nowhere but down over the next months from all the way till next August. So we usually build a budget around about 94% of the estimated taxable value, certified value that we receive in late July.
Okay. This item is for approval. There are 3 attachments there. Is there any questions?
This is just purely discussion, Ms. Freeman. We're required to notify the board of the appraisals, and so that's what we're doing. It would not surprise you to note that the vast majority of the appraised value comes from Bexar County, and then obviously very small numbers from Bandera and Medina County, as those areas are much more rural in nature. But no approval needed, just for discussion.
99.6% is Bexar County.
The huge majority.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, next item, substitute compensation. Ms. Hill?
So you've heard a little bit tonight about substitute compensation. We bring a proposal to you tonight to reconsider substitute compensation, given what's going on both in the market and with the challenges that districts are facing all over in filling existing vacancies. As you might imagine, a number of existing vacancies, teacher vacancies in Northside, are currently filled with long-term substitutes, and that further reduces the pool of people we can use just on a daily basis for that purpose. So Ms. Hill and her group have looked at what others have done and are bringing a proposal on compensation that we would put in place for the fall, review at the end of the semester, and consider whether it were needed for the remainder of the school year. Patty?
All right. President Freeman, Dr. Woods, members of the board, as you know, substitute teachers have always been an essential part of our school operations. I started my career in Northside as a substitute teacher, waiting for my job to happen in January of, I won't say what year. But these substitute teachers are more critical now than ever, as Dr. Woods said, due to the labor shortage for teachers. Our goal with our substitutes is always to recruit, retain, and reward these valuable employees, but also to increase the fill rate when our teachers request substitutes, so that we get as many jobs that are out there, that we get substitutes that accept those jobs. So our proposal is to add $30 per day when a sub works a full day on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but to add $50 a day when they work on a Monday and a Friday, which are typically our higher days that more teachers are off. If we go to the next slide, we can look at rates. So on the left-hand side, let's look at that column first. These are our current rates for the 3 groups that we use as teacher substitutes. We have some certified teacher substitutes, in many cases retired teachers, or teachers that just really don't want to work completely full-time. We also use as substitutes people that have degrees but are not teacher certified. And then we also use a group that have 90 or more college semester hours. If you look at those rates for the certified teacher, currently the full day rate is $100, and you can see the half day and the long-term rate as well. Long-term is anything over 10 days. The degreed, the full day rate right now is $90, and for the 90-plus semester hours, the full day rate is $80. So if we go over to the right-hand column, these are the new rates that we're proposing. If a sub is certified and works a full day on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or 30, we'd pay them $130. And if they work on a Monday or a Friday, it would be $150. For the degreed but not certified, the full-day rate for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would be $120, $140 for Monday and Friday. And for the 90 semester hours, full-day rate on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would go to $110 and $130 on Monday and Friday. Just some additional information. We also value our instructional assistant substitutes and our paraprofessional substitutes, so we would add $20 a day for those groups.
Do you know what their daily rate is now?
I'd have to look. I'd have to look.
That's okay.
We were really, that group is not, we're not having trouble filling that as much as we are. Those are small numbers, so we really wanted to concentrate on the teachers.
Okay.
Because that's where the issue is.
And why more on Monday and Friday versus Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? I thought we were pretty much having across the board. I mean, I know Monday and Fridays are the big days when you have.
Those are just the days that there's more teacher absenteeism
Oh, no,
and fewer sub rates. I mean, fewer sub fill rates. So
Okay. So
people
we're
like
just
their 3-day
encouraging.
weekends.
So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have a higher percentage. We can get a higher percentage of subs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so we don't need to go to that higher rate on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But Monday, Fridays, we have less people, so we need a little bit more incentive on those days.
We do, exactly. Well said.
Okay.
Well said. So this won't be cheap, but well worth it. So we tried to come up with a cost estimate, and the math was kind of tricky because you just can't predict when people are going to take off. But we used the data from 1920 because 2021 was weird. So if we had a 100% fill rate, every job filled every day, and we did this just from October to December, the cost would be about $4.3 million. And if we did it the whole year from October through June, it would be about $8.6 million. 90% fill rate would also be good. Our current fill rate, our current fill rate is kind of low right now. But when we're normal, it's about 85. So even bringing it up to 90% is very doable in our schools. And the cost there would be $3.87 million if we do it just from October to December, the first semester, and $7.74 million if we did it for all of the school year through June. And as Dr. Wood said, we would like to review this at the end of the first semester and see if it's actually making any difference and to determine whether we want to go forward with this. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions, y'all? Gerald?
Patty, thank you very much. It's a good presentation, gives us exactly what we needed. My question is centered around a retired teacher, and let's say she's retired and she's collecting benefits. Does this in any way affect their retirement, or would it affect their retirement?
It depends on when they retired, and they would have to follow the rules that they retired under through TRS. But as long as they work less than half the time, in most cases, they're eligible for this as well, and it does not affect their annuity, their TRS annuity.
And is that an area that, I'm not sure if you mentioned it or not, but is it an area that we're targeting as far as retired teachers? Trying to, hey, come on back.
We are, and it's amazing. We've got a lot of retired teachers, and our substitutes love being in Northside. They don't want to separate from Northside. We had a few that we had to convince, come on, it's going to be safe, come on back, we need you back. And they said, well, okay, well, I'm not ready to come back yet, but I don't want to be separated from Northside. So, you know, we hope this will encourage some of them, plus the drop in the rates with COVID, that we're going to get our substitutes back in our schools.
Now, do they sign a contract that says, hey, they agree to work with us, or you know, something? It's just on a.
They don't sign a contract, but they are our
as needed
employees. And what we do ask our substitutes is to work at least twice per month so that they stay connected with us.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Blunt?
Yeah, I was just trying to recall, and I may be going back too far in years, but on process-wise, if somebody wants to be a substitute, is there a time frame they have to submit their application or name?
We
it's still
process
true?
substitutes all year long.
Oh, good, okay.
So they go online, go to the website, they apply, they get the packet, they fill out the packet, they get on a scheduler, they're scheduled, they come in, we process, and, you know, we can actually turn a sub around in 24 hours if we need to. And we do that on special requests from principals. When they have a sub or a special situation, there's a way that they can do a special request, and we can turn a sub around in 24 to 48 hours for that campus.
Okay, thank you.
I think, Bobby, you're thinking about, we used to have
Yeah.
that though, Patty.
It's by May.
When we had 10 people for every sub-position. We cut them off at a certain time and just did that training like twice a year or something.
We just can't do that anymore. We do it year-round. Now, granted, the most of it's June, July, August, September, October, but we do it year-round, and especially those special requests.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, this is for approval. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the additional sub-pay.
We have a motion and a tie for second on the substitute teacher pay.
Oh, yeah,
Corinne?
doesn't matter.
Okay. Corinne? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, rolling along. Under admin, review of legal policies, TASB, legal and local policies, TASB update 117. Mr. Galindo?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Freeman, actually, both items A and B will be presented by Ms. Naomi Miller, and neither of them require any action. The first one, item A, is a review of legal policies that might be of interest to you, as we usually present to you. And then item B are the local policies, and those you've been sent to before, or ahead of time, I should say, for your review, and Ms. Naomi Miller will go over both of those. Ms. Miller?
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Woods, and members of the board. I come to you today with update 117. As usual, when we do these updates,
Mrs. Legal.
Ms. Miller?
Yes, ma'am.
What seems to be the problem?
My presentation is not up.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Hey, there you go.
I say they're in leaderboard as well.
Yay.
Okay, so I come today with update 117 overview, and as I usually do, we will go over a couple of legal policies, and then we will review the update for the local policies. So the first item is the legal policies, and these are as presented before our policy committee on July 26th. So, thank you. Next slide. Yep. So there were 26 updates to legal policies in this update 117. Most were innocuous, not too much substance, small changes to policies on facilities that were mostly procedural in nature. So I just chose a couple to go over with you. For most of these, we do have local policies that are in line with these legals. Friendly reminder that these are only for discussion and not approval, as they are set in law and cannot be amended. So these are just for discussion. So the first one I wanted to highlight was Cbb Legal. This simply addresses some correcting amendments that were issued by the Department of Education to the Uniform Guidance for Grants and Agreements. And the CBB is regarding state and federal revenue sources. The next legal I wanted to highlight was EKB Legal, which was changed in accordance with House Bill 3906, which was the big accountability bill from the 2019 session that changed writing assessment for grades 4 and 7. So that reference has been removed from EKB per House Bill 3908. So those are the two legal policies I wanted to highlight.
Any questions before we leave legal?
Really not big changes to
No.
anything on that.
No. Okay, I'll move on to local policies. Again, these were presented before the policy committee on July 26th. There are only 5 changes in update 117. The first one is to CH local, which is regarding purchasing and acquisition. So this seemed to have come up because of the winter storm in February. This is regarding purchasing and acquisition. It simply adds the exception for emergency contracts in the event of a catastrophe, emergency, or natural disaster, and it delegates authority to the superintendent to contract for replacement, construction, or repair of school equipment or facilities. So this change was based on some requests from some districts that were affected by the winter storm so that the superintendent could have more flexibility in emergency circumstances that might affect school buildings or district facilities. They recommend this new provision in CH to delegate that authority to contract for those repairs. Moving on to CHE local.
Naomi, I have a question on that.
Yes, sir.
So on that question, I mean, on this item, where we're giving the superintendent the authority to make those decisions, is there a dollar amount specific to that? There's no dollar amount like under 50,000 or over 50,000?
This is for CH specifically.
Yes, yeah.
Authorizes for 50,000 or more.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this just adds a provision under that purchasing authority.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Thank you.
yeah, Gerald, I think the question you were asking though is that, is there a cap on it? And it's not, because this is an exception to that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so
No,
moving on to CHE local, this policy is recommended for deletion. Instead, they want to add the provisions in CHE, which is regarding the complaint processes for vendors under purchasing and acquisition.
right, no, let's back up,
Yes, ma'am.
if you don't mind.
No.
Okay, so,
So I'm kind of. What I'm confused at is, okay, so this is saying in the event of an emergency, right? So we give the control to the superintendent for facilities.
Right.
And even though in our current, in one of our policies, you know it offhand, but we have a limit as to what can be approved.
Right.
Up to 50,000, right? So this basic policy then would, if this, in the event of this disaster, it would supersede that rule. It would supersede that legal document, right?
So this adds to purchasing authority of the superintendent for specific purposes. There are several categories in CH. This adds another category for in the event of a catastrophe or disaster.
It adds another category.
It adds another provision under what the superintendent, that the board can delegate to the superintendent to make purchases over $50,000. This adds another provision to that for that specific purpose.
So it supersedes that, or adds it in the event of a natural disaster.
It's an
Right.
exemption, yes.
Right.
Okay.
It's an exception for emergency contracts in the event of a disaster.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Sure.
This would be a situation like you've seen in other districts where there's a tornado that impacts one campus or two campuses, and the campus or the district can immediately contract for repairs so that you don't have students out of school for a number of days, that kind of thing.
And the reason why I ask that is because sometimes in our areas, in our district, nothing as huge as that, but something like a major storm came in, and like we've had, maybe 4 years ago, that area was claimed as a disaster by the insurance company. And we still went through the process of going through and saying, hey, this is what was assessed, these are the values that we have to come up with. We still went through all of that process. That's why I'm just wondering if that's the governor is designating it as a natural disaster, or can it be a natural disaster of any sort that comes in our district?
It would not have to be a governor-decreed disaster,
Okay.
because it may be so localized that there would be no way to get that designation. Right?
Okay. All right, thanks.
I seem to remember too, as we talked about this in committee, these are some things that could happen where you couldn't get a quorum of the board together, the board couldn't meet for emergency purposes, or people didn't have internet, so you couldn't do an emergency meeting of the board. So this would give the superintendent the opportunity to go ahead and make those repairs as necessary.
Hopefully
without-
something we will never have to use.
Correct.
But it could be something though, like on the deep freeze thing, if we needed, 100 generators on campuses and that would give us the advantage then of you being able to immediately request that on that. Because that's what I saw during Hurricane Harvey, was the person who had the quickest ability to order generators was the one who got them.
Yeah, we saw plenty of examples of this locally during the February freeze event, where an entire campus was flooded because of broken sprinkler system pipes, and they needed to hire help to get the pipes repaired and the school cleaned up so that they could get kids back in the building. And while at an elementary, that might not be a $50,000 expense, depending upon the damage to the pipes, which obviously have to be operational in order to put kids in there, could easily be $50,000.
Thank you. Okay, moving back to CH Local, this is also under purchasing and acquisition. Monica? I'm sorry, go back one. So TASB is recommending, sorry, I'm off. CHE Local, thank you. So TASB is recommending this one for deletion because they're going to add these provisions to GF Local. So CHE Local is regarding complaint processes for vendors. They are deleting CHE Local and moving it to GF Local, which is our policy on public complaints. So they're simply just consolidating that process by adding the processes for vendors to GF. And we'll go over GF at the end of my presentation with that change. CV is regarding facilities construction. This simply adds a note that refers back to CH Local, which we just had a conversation about regarding those delegating decisions on emergency contracting. So CV, the only thing that changed is that they mentioned to reference CH Local on that delegating authority. DEC Local has several changes to leaves and absences. That I believe in leaderboard, I summarized those changes, but I'll take questions. A summary of a summary is most of the changes were removing administrative details that were no longer required, directing the superintendent to develop admin regs, which we've already done one on DEC regarding leaves and absences, and then other updates and revisions. Lastly is GF Local, which I just mentioned. This adds the provisions from CHE, which was recommended for deletion regarding complaints by vendors. That puts it under the public complaint process. Also in policy, we did separately discuss some changes to GF local for the grievance process, but we're going to bring that to you next month and at the October meeting. This is simply adding the provisions that were deleted from CHE over to GF local. This is a separate TASB recommendation, but we'll come back to you next month with the grievance process for GF. And that is the end of update 117.
Ms. Miller, question.
Yes, ma'am.
So to the, I'm not sure I followed you regarding GF local.
Okay.
So you're going to come back to us next week with what?
Next month, so in
Next month?
Yes, ma'am.
Next month?
Next month.
You're going to come back with what?
So we discussed in our policy committee meeting on July 26th some separate Northside ISD recommended changes to the grievance process under GF. I am only talking about the CHE portion. I just wanted to mention that we will discuss GF again, but it will be separate from 117.
Okay, now I got it.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
It's not first reading for, these will come later for first reading, okay.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. If you may remember in a policy, we will bring actually DGBA, GF, and FNG
Right.
as they all deal with grievances. So on top of the changes that TASB recommended to GF, we'll bring our own to that and bring them to you for first reading.
Okay. Thank you.
So this is just separate from that. It's a recommendation by TASB, separate from that.
Okay. Does the board have any questions right now? As you go back and study these, if you have any additional questions, you're welcome to ask them before the get in touch with Naomi before the next board meeting, because local will be up for then second reading and approval.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, future agenda items, Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. In your blue folder, you have a number of items. One obviously is the list of future agenda items we're holding for October and future meetings. There's also, really want to point out, there's a letter to each of you from the Bear Appraisal District that I think is an interesting and positive change that applies to board members. So please read that and consider whether you want to participate in that program.
Yes.
You do that directly with them, and I agree. It should be a yes for each of you. But that is your business. You have a number of invitations, including some really exciting stuff. The Whataburger is going to host a World Teacher Appreciation presentation at the Zachary Magnet School. Looks like next week. We've got our annual Ag in Action that is back up and running, that will be also running next week. Dedication of Tomlinson, and then a 50th anniversary for Hobby Middle School. And then note there is a cancellation of an event that it was scheduled for Monday, October the 4th. And that is it for future agenda. Ms. Freeman?
They're very excited about having us come out for Ag in Action.
Yep.
So if y'all get
Always
a chance.
Neat event to be with fourth graders.
Dr. Woods.
Ma'am.
Regarding future agenda items, at some point in time, maybe a committee meeting on where we are with esports, schools participating. It's
Okay.
such a new program, it's probably would be difficult to right now to report on that, but as it gets later in the school year.
Will you help me hold that thought, Janice? Yeah, we've got a little bit of an update we can do. Yeah, so we'll circle back to that.
Okay. All right.
I've got something I'd like to get on the building committee, and it's interesting while we were looking at these, that there's a local reg about the selection process for architecture engineering firms, Jacob, and it states that staff evaluation and ranking of interested firms using preset criteria. And I'm sure we have it, but I'd just like to have us review that since we reviewed the matrix a while back. It's under policy CV local selection process for architect or engineering firms.
Jacob, you good? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. The Board of Trustees on September 28th, 2021, beginning at, let's take at least a 5-minute, 10-minute break. We'll convene in closed meeting in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, 551.074. Discussion will take place on items A through G as outlined in the agenda. Okay.
Stan.
Hold on a second.
But he's out of jail. How long did he stay in jail?
What's that?
How long did he stay in jail?
I don't recall. Years. Okay.
All right.
That works in funny ways for me.
Board of Trustees on September 28th, 2021, beginning at 8:56 p.m. Will convene an open meeting. Action will take place on the following items, A and then C through F. Is there a motion for any of these? You have I know that there's a resolution for item A, and then we can do C through F in, am I reading that right? Yes, in one motion.
So, I move the following resolution be approved and adopted by this board. Resolved that the superintendent and/or his designee is hereby authorized to consider the sale to TxDOT of an approximate
Oh, I don't know.
0.0853
Is it raining?
acre tract of land on Bandera Road,
Like raining a
which is
lot?
currently part of the Sandra Day O'Connor High School campus and the subject of eminent domain proceedings initiated by TxDOT for a purchase price acceptable to the superintendent in his sole discretion, and the president of the Board of Trustees is hereby authorized to execute a deed conveying such property to TxDOT or its designee.
Okay, we have a motion for that resolution on item A. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, is there any questions? Discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there another motion for items C through F? C, D, E, and F.
I move approval of the, is that where we are? I'm sorry. I
Yes,
move
I'm sorry.
approval of the administrative recommendations as approved in closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to
I
approve the
don't-
administrative
I'm
appointments as discussed in executive session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. And unless there's any objection, the board ends this meeting at 8:58 PM on September 28, 2021. Right.